Hey guys, what's up? Killjoy Jake here, and instead of having friends, I'm dressed up in winter gear in the middle of August. Tell you what though, this hat's pretty stylish. Today I'm going to be pitting the remake versus the original of The Thing from Another World. Little did you know that the John Carpenter movie is actually a remake of the 1951 classic horror film. Did I just cook your noodle? Probably. But before I get into that, I'm gonna need you guys to like this video and subscribe for more horror content. And you know what, I might take this hat off. Now let's get into it. Get over here! So first, let's talk about some history with both of these films. A little new segment I'm gonna do in the remake versus original videos. Since I'm doing them every week, I might as well tell you a little bit about these movies I'm covering. Both movies are based on the novella Who Goes There by John W. Campbell. The film is also currently being remade again in 2021 sometime, and the John Carpenter movie has a pretty lame prequel, and I don't think I'm ever going to really make a prequel versus original of The Thing, unless this video does really well, who knows. My short review of the 2011 film is, you made a prequel to a film that uses some of the best practical effects ever, and you decide to make that film all CGI? What the hell, man? Also, back in 2005, there was supposed to be a sequel to the John Carpenter movie that was going to take place in New Mexico 23 years later after the events of that movie. So Frank Darabont was supposed to be in charge of that 2005 project, and that actually ended up turning into that crappy prequel. Oh my god, I would have loved to see a Frank Darabont sequel to The Thing. How awesome would that have been if it took place in the desert instead of Antarctica? John Carpenter remade the 1951 movie in '82 and even featured the original film in a shot from his classic Halloween, which I know this month is John Carpenter themed movies for my remake versus original series, but I won't be doing Halloween until, well, Halloween. It's just too fitting not to do that, come on. So now that we got the formalities out of the way, let's get into the good. Starting with the 1951 movie, The Thing from Another World, or TTFA as I like to say for short, there's an underlying social commentary about communism. I like the social commentary in the 50s one just a little better. It has the edge over the John Carpenter movie, just because the John Carpenter movie kind of stole the idea from Invasion of the Body Snatchers. I'm not gonna say steal, I'm gonna say borrow. And I just want to make it very clear that I do not support communism. This is not a plus for communism or anything like that. All right, comrade, do we understand? Wow, this looks, that sounded really bad, especially with the hat and everything. Okay, let's just move on. I just love creature designs from early horror films. You know, I got my Universal Monsters shirt on right now, and I love the Universal Monsters. They're some of my absolute favorite villains in any kinds of movies, and why that is because it just took so much longer back in the day. You couldn't rely on computer-generated images, CGI. Boris Karloff has talked in interviews when he was playing Frankenstein that he had to sit in a chair for like 10, 12 hours getting that makeup and prosthetics put on his body. People just don't do that anymore. I mean, sure, there are cases here and there, but like back in the day, everybody who was making these kind of movies, they had to put that time and effort into them. And that's why I think they still hold up today. Well, some of them do. The ending of this film is probably one of the best endings to a horror film ever. The ending to this film is just so powerful. He broadcasts to the world saying, "Watch for the skies," and it's just so intense, and it's just really quick and fast, and then just ends. For the 50s, man, that's pretty intense, pretty suspenseful. I have to hand it to this movie. I mean, even though it's kind of dated for being from the 50s and all that, the dialogue's a little wonky here and there because, well, we just haven't talked like that for almost 70 years. Actually, now that I think about it, it's been 69 years since this movie came out. Nice. Honestly, one of the most underrated horror endings ever. Now let's move on to the good from The Thing from 1982. This film is like the best use of practical effects ever in a horror movie. I had to start off with the fact that this film uses practical effects just so well, to such a great extent. Now, the movie only had a $15 million budget, and 10% of that budget was spent just on practical effects. As the teacher from Stranger Things will tell you, they used melted bubblegum and like a whole bunch of like melted rubber and stuff to make those crazy looking effects, and a whole bunch of crazy animatronics as well. It sucks that this movie wasn't received well at first because it's such a great horror film. The casting for this movie is impeccable. Now honestly, there's not really anybody in this whole movie where I'm like, that guy kinda sucks. But the big standouts to me are Kurt Russell and Keith David. Their chemistry, especially in that last scene, is just so powerful, and it just really gets you involved with these characters, which makes the ending of this film so much more emotional. I have to give a positive to John Carpenter just in general. He's such an incredible director, and yet he's so so underrated. See, nowadays he's not as underrated, but back in the day, a lot of his movies bombed, especially this one. Yeah, it did make some money, but the problem was it was just received so poorly from critics. And it's not because people hated the movie, it just came out at a really bad time. It had competition with E.T., which is like kind of hilarious to come out at the same time. You go into E.T. and you're like, oh, aliens are so cool, they're nice, they're gonna like heal me if I get cut or some shit. And then you go into this movie and you're like, oh wow, that's a really nihilistic approach to the same kind of idea. Wow. So I can see why audiences at the time weren't really a big fan of this one. It would later become a super popular cult classic though. So hey, at least we have that. Thought-provoking and open-ended. There's so many theories online about this movie, and my favorite is the idea that Childs at the end of the film is actually the Thing. If you notice in that ending scene, you can see Kurt Russell's breath, but when Keith David goes to breathe, you don't really see anything come out of his mouth. Now I don't know if that was purposeful or what that really means. John Carpenter's never really said anything about it, but I think it's because he's the Thing. Best sci-fi horror film of all time? Yeah. Maybe. I would say that's very arguable, but I don't know too many people who wouldn't consider this one of the best sci-fi horror films of all time. Now let's move on to the bad. The bad for T.T.Fa would be, it's a little dated, I'm not gonna lie. The film's dialogue does get a little dated and kind of makes the film slow. I mean, we just haven't talked like that for 69 years, like I said. It's almost like they're speaking a different language watching these older films. You gotta really pay attention. Sometimes I even turn the subtitles on just to like try and really understand it. That's what I did when I rewatched this just recently. It's definitely worth watching. I'm not saying it's not worth watching because it's dated. It's just you gotta pay a lot more attention than films that came out this year. Not that a lot of films did come out this year though. Little tear. The monster in this movie is just a plant version of Frankenstein. Yeah, let's be honest, guys. I mean, the monster looks just like Frankenstein, but with like some roots growing off of him. I don't really know how that makes me feel. I mean, like, it's a cool monster design, like I said, but it's basically just Frankenstein. I prefer the assimilation aspect of the 1982 film. Moving on to The Thing from 1982. I don't want to put anything on this bad list, honestly, but I have to put something, so I guess it's a little slow to get into the action, I guess. But not really. There's a moments, like a very small sliver moments that I get a little feeling of like, okay, this is kind of slow, let's move it a little bit, you know, let's move on. But I'm entertained throughout this whole movie, honestly. If something crazy isn't happening on screen, there's some awesome imagery or some awesome dialogue between characters, there's never really a dull moment in this movie. So am I giving out the ugly awards to any of these films? Hell no. Both are incredible in their own right, I think, and it's kind of hard, honestly, it's hard for me to pick a winner because I like both of them so much, but The Thing from 1982, I think, has to win this one. It's such an achievement of practical effects, and it's a landmark horror film for the sci-fi horror blended mix. Definitely a must-see if you've never seen it before, and if you've watched this whole video and you've never seen either of these movies, what are you doing? What are you doing? I'm thankful that you watched my video. Thanks for giving me the watch time. I appreciate it, but like, go watch both of these movies. Oh my god, what are you doing? I hope I didn't spoil it for you too much. Yeah, I feel bad now. So what do you guys think about these results? Leave me something about it in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching my remake versus the original of The Thing. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more horror content. Can I take this hat off now? It's like 1,000 degrees in here, holy sh. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at KilljoyJake1 and on Instagram at Killjoy_Jake. And as always, don't forget to kill it out there, y'all.